Hi everyone, and welcome to Cooking with Cricket. I just thought I'd pull out the pressure cooker and make some good hot beef sandwiches that will make a dip that goes with it. I have a beef eye round roast, and this is like a little over 3 pounds. So mine is still frozen. I took it out of the freezer this morning, and it's what, 1:30 in the afternoon now, so it's still good and frozen. So I'm going to go ahead and just pressure cook it for a little bit with the beef stock and all, just to really get it good and unthawed. See, it about won't fit down in there. Let me cut that off and I'll be back. Alright, I just cut it off and added that little piece that I cut off down in the pressure cooker too. I just wanted it to go down in there. So I'm going to be using a real thick beef concentrated base that I use. Let me show you. And you don't need much of it. I have 2 cups of hot water. I added a good tablespoon of that beef base. I added to this 2 tablespoons of what's this here sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and then these are some peperoncini peppers. I added a little one and a big one, so, and I may need to add more water. If you don't have that beef base, just use some beef broth or beef bouillon. And I might have to add just a little bit more water. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my seasonings. So here, that beef base is very salty, so you don't need a lot of salt right now. You can taste it and check it for salt when it gets done. So just 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and I use kosher, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder and garlic powder, a teaspoon of dried parsley, a 1/2 teaspoon of dried rosemary and dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, and 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. Really? Now really, all we're doing is I'm wanting this roast to get unthawed, and it will cook just a little bit, but it won't be all the way done. So after this first cooking, we're going to let this pressure cook. It will take it about 10-15 minutes to come up to pressure. We're going to pressure cook it for 45 minutes, and then I'm just going to let it naturally release. I know I can be a lot confusing a lot of times, but you really want enough water to kind of cover. And we will check the broth too when it gets done to see, you know, what else we might need. Put it on airtight, high pressure for 45 minutes, and start. Alright, let's take a look. I know it was smelling good as it was cooking. So I'm just going to set my roast in a plate. And I'll check it to make sure it's fully defrosted and all, and I'm sure it's done cooked some too. But it's not cooked all the way through. Now I'm going to take the broth and just pour it up in a bowl, because we will be using it again. Now I'm going to set my my pressure cooker on slow cook, on brown, and I'm going to add a little bit of oil. Of course I'm going to use olive oil, just a couple of teaspoons, and I know it's already heated up. So I have 1 onion that I thinly sliced. I'm going to pour that in there, and then when this starts to brown, I'm going to be adding some garlic in there. When I go to add the garlic, I'll be back. Oh, if your roast is fully defrosted, you can skip that whole first step. Then what you do, you can take your roast with some oil and brown it off real good, then take your roast out, and then add your onions and your garlic, and then proceed with the rest. But I'm skipping the step of the browning of my roast because it was frozen. And this is what my roast looked like on the inside. See, it's still raw all in the middle. So, but we'll finish cooking it up. Alright, we want our onions to really get good and browned and caramelized. So they're looking good. So I'm going to add just a couple of cloves of minced garlic. Let that go a little bit. Okay, we got some good brown bits on the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to take a little bit of the broth that it cooked in, add it in here, scrape some of that up. That's got good flavor in it. Now I'm going to add my roast back in. The juice that was in the plate. Now in this broth right here, I went ahead and added a couple of more teaspoons of my concentrated beef base, just to really intensify that flavor. And we're going to pour that back in. Gonna give it a little bit of a stir, and now I'm gonna pressure cook it on high for 45 minutes. And yours may take longer or it might take shorter. It really depends on the size of your roast. Make sure it's on airtight. We're gonna go at high pressure for another 45 minutes and then just let the pressure naturally release. I'm going to go 55 minutes. It's not going to hurt nothing. Just make it more fall apart better. And then after it naturally releases, I'll be back. Alright, my pressure cooker has finished and it has naturally released, and I even put it on exhaust to make sure. I know it smells wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and take out the roast. And I'm just going to double check it to make sure it's done like we like it. It's done and it tastes very good. And I just want you to know that I did use this before. This bowl and these tongs. I did wash them. So now I'm going to strain the broth. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my pressure cooker on the brown setting and let it be heating back up. You don't have to strain it, but we like it that way. So you don't have all them fat bits and soggy onion and all floating around. See, all that ain't floating around. We just don't like it. And two, I can skim off a lot of that fat or put it in my defatter thing. But now I'm going to try it. Taste it for seasoning. It's perfect, except I am going to add just a pinch more of salt, and then that's all it needs. But I am going to go ahead and put it back in my pressure cooker on the brown setting, let it cook and bubble and evaporate just a little bit to really get the flavors real good. And I could have just strained it in my defatter cup. Okay, let me let that settle. I'll have to do it a couple of times, and I'll meet you back at the pressure cooker. Okay, while we're letting this simmer and boil and reduce just a little bit, I did put some foil over my roast and letting it just sit on the stove, and I'll be back in a little bit. So I just got some good crusty like bakery rolls, or you can get you some hoagie rolls. I split it in half, buttered it, and just toasted the inside of it. I didn't toast the outside. Just lay your roast beef on there, pour your jus, your au jus in a bowl, and just dip your sandwiches. If you wanted to put a dressing on here, you could put whatever kind of dressing that you might like. So this is my son's plate that I fixed for him. I've done tried it and it's really good. So I'm going to let him come in here and try it for us too. Alright, he doesn't want to be on camera, so he'll just try it right here.
Delicious.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Anyway, I hope this video wasn't too confusing. I hope this video wasn't too confusing. I can't say that word. And I hope you enjoy.